This is a lot more terrifying once you're actually out there. So bear with me here. When I was first asked to speak at this event, I felt very confident in saying yes. Every day following that answer, I soon forgot why I even said it. I knew I wasn't that qualified. Clovis North is full of geniuses. There's no way I could compare. Along with that, I had no idea what I would possibly say. I knew I had to incorporate religion, as this is a religious ceremony, but most of my participation in religion has been personal. To try and compensate, I watched hundreds of baccalaureate speeches, viewed farewell addresses, and at one point I even looked up best graduation speech ever on YouTube because of the inspiration. There wasn't much. Out of all the ways to spark the inspiration for my speech, I would have never expected it to come from watching Breaking Bad. Essentially, one of the characters holds up a large stack of cash, stares at it for a long time, and says, "Upon this rock, I will build my church." At first glance, it's a pretty standard, cheesy cable television one-liner. Many of you know it as Matthew 16:18. "And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." That verse got me thinking about how all throughout high school we had all been building churches of our own. By that I mean we were all creating our personality, who we are as people. Side note, please ignore the fact that my entire thesis for a graduation speech came from a show about cooking meth. Sean, you're gonna have to let me know how many years in purgatory I get for it.
Oh my gosh.
Over 4 long years, we found our loves, our hates, our fears, our passions, whether or not Driver's License was actually a good song. And those churches, I was hoping someone was gonna laugh at that. And those churches sat upon your rock, or the thing you all value most. My rock, or my foundation to who I am, has and always will be my family, which goes far beyond just those related to me by blood. And on that rock, I began to build my church freshman year, as did everyone else. Freshman year was the initial framing of our church. It is where we picked up little pieces of who we are. We may not have known anything about architecture, but we still found our way. Sophomore year was a little more comfortable. We began to fill in our walls by delving deeper into the pieces we had picked up freshman year. However, the building process does not come without setbacks, and the end of junior year seems to be a universal setback for everyone. Apparently some virus from another church got into the holy water and it really just caused a big halt on the whole process. Despite a brief pause in building, we adapted and learned to continue to build our churches from home. Senior year meant it was time for the finishing touches. We got to really take a step back and see the beauty we had created. We got to add shimmering stained glass windows, magnificent crosses and statues to show off who we had all become. On Tuesday, everyone at Clovis North will accept their diplomas and show their church off to the world. Or at least that was the plan. Sometimes there are more than just setbacks. Sometimes a hurricane comes through and blows down everything we had built and learned. For those of you still listening whose churches are built and ready to go, don't just ignore the rest of this. I thought my church would be in the same position as yours. For the time being, just make sure you keep the floors maintained. For those of you whose churches are not yet completed or have come falling to the ground, this is where the importance of it comes in. One day I looked at my church at the beginning of senior year, and it was gone. I had no motivation. I had no emotion. I woke up feeling nothing and went to bed feeling less. I was depressed. I think I had and still have very little idea of what to make of myself. I searched everywhere for what could have caused this. There had to be a crack in my foundation, a faulty part in the support structures from freshman year. Maybe in stained glass windows I had just started putting up, a screw loose, something. There had to be a reason. This doesn't just happen to people, right? Something must have caused this total loss of who I am. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't care if I went to college. At one point, I gave up on praying in my religion. I thought nobody was listening. I didn't want to work hard anymore, and hard work was what my church was practically made out of. I was motivation. I ran on passion and energy, and I had no idea what to do when it was gone. Fortunately, among the rubble remained my rock, my foundation. My immediate family didn't know what I was going through. It's not their fault. I didn't tell them or clue them into any of it. And not many of my friends did either. But just being with my family and my friends were the only times that I was happy. It was through those moments of happiness that I found how to rebuild my church. I learned to never lose sense of my rock, especially when it is something unbreakable like family. When you lose something precious to you, you hold on to the hope that it'll just reappear. For me, I constantly looked for some line or phrase to fix everything, a Goodwill Hunting-esque moment. For those of you who don't know that movie scene, therapist Robin Williams looks at a troubled and distraught Southie, played by Matt Damon, and tells him, "It's not your fault." Over and over and over until he breaks into tears and he is saved. I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me that wasn't my fault, although I did try to get Matt Damon's middle part. I was waiting for some revelation or phrase that would just fix all my problems and restore my church like nothing had ever happened. But this life is not a movie scene, and just as Rome wasn't built in a day, our churches weren't either. The only way to rebuild is to get down and start rebuilding. This may seem like a daunting task to just restart, but keep in mind, you learned how to build at Clovis North. You know how to do it now. You can do it now. You put in the work and the time to create something beautiful. There is so much more time ahead of you to just try again. And there's no guarantee it will stand up to the second try, or the third, or even the 100th. What you do know is, you know how to do it, and every church will be stronger than the last. I didn't want to give this speech because I was so worried about my own church in tattered ruins, I didn't even stop to think that there were other churches like mine. And that we could all help each other to build them up stronger. Just by talking to a few friends, I wasn't scared of starting over. I knew I had others to help me along the way. So look for those people, those fellow architects just trying to create something amazing of themselves. You can learn a lot from them, and they can learn a lot from you. So never stop building your church. If you ever need help, God is there to lend you a hammer and a few nails. His son was a carpenter after all. And never forget about your rock, whether that be God, your family, or anything else you can fit your church on. And try to come into an actual church like this once in a while. All they want to do is teach you how to build your own. If one day your church comes crashing down and you figure out what to do, you can always come back to this speech. Just go on YouTube and look up best graduation speech. Thank you, Pastor.